I have no intention of hanging a man twice for the same crime. Welcome to the Disney Scrapbook, where together we take a journey to explore Disney history from 50 years ago. My name is Nolan. Today, I thought we would continue to take a look at Disney's 1973 Western comedy film, One Little Indian. If you have not watched part 1 of the series that explores the film's location, cinematography, and history, then I suggest you start there before continuing on this journey with me. In part 2 of the series, we will look at the cast, stuntmen, and accidents. Legendary composer Jerry Goldsmith wrote a phenomenal soundtrack for this film, containing astute auditory storytelling. Rosie and the Camels have their own delightful motif that creates comedy. Percussion instruments chime in and strings carry us through the wilderness. Even without the visual information from the film, the music makes compelling listening, created by one of film music's most innovative and influential composers. In 1973, when composing for One Little Indian, Jerry Goldsmith had already been nominated for 5 Oscars, including for Planet of the Apes and Patton. He would go on to be nominated for a further 13 Academy Awards, and in 1976 winning for The Omen. He would go on to twice more work for Disney. In 1998, he composed the score to Disney's animated feature Mulan, and then in 2001, he would write an original score to accompany the attraction soaring over California at the Disneyland Resort. Disney had a long history of relying on in-house composers, but by this time, the Sherman brothers had left to pursue other ventures. George Bond was busy writing the score for Disney's 1973 release of Robin Hood, and Buddy Baker was busy composing the score for the other 1973 release of Superdad, which is probably why the studio hired such talented and renowned composers as both Marvin Hamlisch for The World's Greatest Athlete and Jerry Goldsmith for this film, with the studio not being ready to commit to lesser-known talent. Superstar James Garner starred as fugitive U.S. Cavalry Corporal Clint Keyes, who disobeys orders and tries to save the lives of Native American women and children during a cavalry raid. He escapes from the Army guardhouse on an obstinate camel named Rosie, a remnant of the U.S. Camel Corps. James Garner, born in 1928 as James Scott Baumgartner in Norman, Oklahoma, to a German father and a half-Cherokee mother, whom he lost when he was young, had a turbulent childhood. He would eventually serve in Korea for 14 months as an infantryman, and after sustaining 2 battlefield injuries, winning 2 Purple Hearts, and gaining his GED in the Army, he landed in L.A., where, after a brief modeling stint and dabbling as a stage actor, he was cast in his first film role in 1956 as Lieutenant Colonel Joe Craven in Towards the Unknown. However, it was being the lead in the offbeat Western series Maverick which got him known. He gained an Oscar nomination for Best Actor in a Leading Role for his 1986 performance in Murphy's Romance, but he will probably always be remembered as Jim Rockford in the detective TV drama series The Rockford Files, in which he starred for 6 years. His performance in One Little Indian carries the plot, as his character is present in nearly every scene. This is a comfortable character for Garner to play, one he's used to, a Western comedy that cast him as a possibly roguish but fundamentally decent man. This was to be the first of his 2 Disney movie contracts that he had with the studio, a mutually beneficial arrangement. The studio used the draw of his star power at a time when Garner was experiencing a lull in his career. 12-year-old Clay O'Brien was chosen by Winston Hibbler to play The 10-year-old runaway white boy was by shining Native American's mark because of his hard work and perseverance. He was reputed to be the only child to show up to the audition in Native American costume, makeup, and a black wig. Hibbler said, "I was not only impressed with his readings, but also with his attitude and initiative." Born in Ray, Arizona, Clay became involved in acting through his stepfather, Gene O'Brien, a wrangler and stuntman in pictures since 1949. Gene's contacts helped land a TV role for Clay in 1971 as Fess Parker's son in Climbing Angry Mountain. This exposure earned him a 2-part episode in Gunsmoke. Clay's motion picture debut came in 1972 with John Wayne in The Cowboys. O'Brien would retire from acting after only 4 years to pursue his passion for rodeo roping, where he would go on to win a total of 7 World Team Roping Championships. His performance as Mark contained very few words, with a quiet character that failed to develop as the film went on. Vivacious Vera Miles, who replaced the TV actress Rosemary Forsyth, who had an accident just before filming began, portrayed a frontier widow, Doris McIver. Miles only started acting to support her family, with the intention of becoming a school teacher. In 1948, she had won 3rd place in the Miss America pageant, which got her noticed by the film industry, gaining her roles in modest films and TV anthologies of the 1950s. It was here that Hitchcock noticed her work in Revenge and put her under personal contract. After working with John Wayne in John Ford's 1956 production, The Searchers, her attitude toward acting in the film industry changed. She said of director John Ford, "It was the first time I'd ever worked with someone so intensely interested in and so serious about filmmaking. His passion inspired and even intrigued me." After starting a family, she acted less, and in smaller films. However, starting in 1964, she made 6 films in 10 years for Disney. The performance she gave in her penultimate Disney film created an energetic and practical character that was totally believable, particularly through facial expression and eye movement. The talented Jodie Foster makes her second motion picture appearance for the Disney Studios as the young daughter, Martha, of the widow Doris McIver. She played a somewhat tomboyish character who was fascinated by Rosie the Camel and her offspring Thirsty, and tries hard to befriend Mark. For me, her performance in this film was too brief. Her acting was excellent, and I would have liked to have seen more of her. Like in Disney's 1972 film Napoleon and Samantha. The day before she left for shooting on One Little Indian, she sprained her ankle falling down the stairs. And although she tried to work, there was too much running, making her unable to work for 4 days. Craggy-faced, athletic, veteran character actor Morgan Woodward plays Sergeant Rains, the villain of this film. Rains has doggedly chased his quarry from Wyoming, zealously pursuing executing his orders from his commander. This menacing and hard-bitten role is perfect casting for Woodward. This veteran of both the Army Corps and Military Air Transport Command acquired his first successful film role in Disney's 1956 Western, The Great Locomotive Chase. He was also featured in Disney's Westward Ho! The Wagons and The Wild Country with Vera Miles, where he once again played the antagonist Abe Cross. I have previously reviewed this film and will leave a link to it in the description below. American film, stage, and television actor Andrew Prine, known for performing in military and western dramas, was first seen in Kiss Her Goodbye, prior to appearing in One Little Indian, as the chaplain of Fort Dorado who was charged with the responsibility of finding a home for Mark. He had extensive experience working in TV westerns, and would become a frequent supporting player in westerns and war films. He played a somber and straight, but kind-hearted character in this film. Captain Stewart, the commanding officer of Fort Dorado, is played by Pat Hingle, a sturdily built performer with a large square head and rustic voice, who has been a solid character player on stage, TV, and screen. Here, he is perfectly cast, and does an incredible job of bringing to life the scene where we choose out Sergeant Rains. Indigenous Canadian actor Jay Silverheels, probably best known for playing Tonto in The Lone Ranger, played the Native American scout Jimmy Wolf. Silverheels actively pursued the betterment of Indigenous people in the motion picture industry. He was a member of the Screen Actors Guild Board of Directors on the Ethnic Minorities Committee, and was executive director of the Indian Actors Workshop, where Native American actors refine their skills in Echo Lake Park, Los Angeles. Silverheels explained that our workshop, which was founded in 1967, is non-profit and non-funded. We exist on donations from such members of the Hollywood community as Glenn Ford, Tony Curtis, Kay Starr, James Garner, and Robert Lancaster, all of whom are part Indian. Silverheels believes that Native Americans have been discriminated against in films, just as other minorities had been, and states that he personally encountered it when he first came to Hollywood in the 1940s. He is proud of the fact that many of his students have gone on to win parts in motion pictures and television. In fact, Louis Red Elk, a member of his workshop, was cast as Blue Feather, Mark Shire Mother in One Little Indian. William H. Butler Sr., known for being able to drive anything with wheels and ride anything with legs, was the stunt coordinator on this film. He was joined by Boyd Red Morgan, Bobby Summers, Kanab local Neil Summers, Norm Taylor, Jay Silverman's stunt double, and James Garner's stunt double, Warden Clark, who fell from a camel during a difficult action scene and was temporarily hospitalized. Troubles had begun for the film weeks before shooting started, when a camel accidentally stepped on a trainer's foot and broke it. The truck, containing props for the picture, suddenly caught fire on the highway on the way to location from Los Angeles, and all the props were lost, followed by a frantic struggle to replace them all. Then one of the crew suffered a slip disc, shoveling sand at the coal pink sand dune. Both Winston Hibbler, the producer, and Bernard McReady, the director, were tenacious in their dealings with all the mishaps, accidents, and interruptions to filming. The summer release of Disney's One Little Indian follows Disney's pattern of this era by releasing historical dramas in the summer months, while reserving their higher budget films for Thanksgiving or Christmas release. Some scenes of the film are captivating and totally drew me in and held my attention, while other scenes appeared incredibly artificial, with actors wildly riding what is obviously a mechanical horse or camel against a fake-looking rear projection screen that contains camera shake. Many of the actors were typecast in familiar roles. Unfortunately, there were quite a few continuity errors in this film, which are jarring to the viewer. Incorporating the middle of a chase sequence as the establishing scene was pure genius. It was incredibly strong with its unusual music and somewhat comedic camera angles, creating suspense and intrigue. The film does contain some negative cultural depictions in its attempt to entertain as it retells history. However, I do recommend watching it for its music and comedic camels. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. One Little Indian is available on iTunes, YouTube, Amazon Prime, Google Play, and of course DVD. If you enjoy this type of 50th anniversary content, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I will be producing other 50th anniversary content throughout the year that will include reviews of Disney films, LPs, books, and theme park content. See you again soon. TTFN. Ta-da for now.